All right, Scott Smith here with Evangelism Ministries, Georgia Baptist Convention, and I am on the Google Hangout today with Michael Stovall of Centennial Baptist Church in Rutledge, Georgia. Michael, good to have you with us today, man.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Good to be with you this morning.
Well, we're actually on today because you and I had a very recent chat. We had a big thing that we put out on our blog at evangelismga.com for Easter, where we were talking about sermon series. We were talking about how to promote that event because really. Wouldn't you agree? Easter really is it's really another opportunity for essentially it's an evangelistic event in most of our churches if we look at it like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so. In most cultures, and especially here in our community, people are going to go to church, and Easter is one of those Sundays that they're going to be there for a multitude of reasons. So, I mean, it has a natural outreach built into it just because it's Easter Sunday to begin with.
Well, we wanted to take advantage of that, and one of the things we did was we promoted a few ways to really promote your Easter service. And so we want to walk through that a little bit with you right now and just kind of what you did. One of the things that we suggested that you do is to put up a special page on your website that had a video welcome from the pastor talking about Easter and that sort of thing. Tell me, was that a hard thing for you guys to pull off? I mean, that is something that you did. What role did that play in the whole process?
Yeah, we had been talking about Easter, and I saw the link. I guess it was on Twitter to the ways to maximize your Easter Sunday and this kind of thing. So I clicked it open, read that article, and of course you had laid out several bullet points, and one of those was the video. And we just recently, I've been here since February of 2014, so just been here 4 months. And so we recently, after having come here, have updated or upgraded our website. And so we wanted to take more advantage, do more media, more interactive with the website. And so we saw this as an opportunity to try something and do it first. And it was real simple. Donnie Compton, who's our Minister of Worship Ministries, he also handles all of our media and internet-based communication. We just found the best location on campus, used an iPhone. He shot the video on his iPhone. I guess it was probably about a minute and 20-second video, then uploaded it, edited it using just basic edit software, and then loaded it onto the website. And what we did, Scott, was we created on the home page, put that video there, we had an Easter logo that we were using on all of our mailers, all of our communication, and so that video started with that. So on the home page was the spot that said Easter 2014, and then it had that video, and of course the screenshot of that video was that opening logo, and they could watch the video from there, or they could click on it and it would take them. We had created a separate page on the website that was just for Easter, and on that page was that same video, all the information about the services. We did a breakfast that morning, some other things that we were doing on Easter Sunday. So we had a dedicated page that they were linked to, and then of course all of our Twitter and Facebook and email communications had the link to that specific web page where they would have a chance to see that video and get the information.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So the core of the strategy was about creating an online property that you could share multiple ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the video, the whole process of the video took probably, I mean, by the time we shot it enough times to get it, right, and then the editing, I mean, altogether we probably had 20 minutes wrapped up in making the video and getting it loaded on the website.
Oh, that's incredible, and you did it with an iPhone. So, I mean, come on, folks, this is the age where media is easy, and it doesn't have to be professional. I think actually just standing out on a sunny day in the front of the church with an iPhone is actually. It's a little more down to earth. It's a little more real, and I think that people, because of the way the culture gravitates now toward authenticity, when it doesn't come off as so polished and posh, it actually has a little bit of a more down to earth appeal. So there's no reason you can't crank these videos out in a very quick way. But let's talk about the offer itself, the offer of the day. What's in that day? Because one of the things that we talk about a lot about events is removing friction, removing reasons that they would choose not to come. And so we talked about adding things into that day. Talk about what you offered on that day that was unique or distinct to that day.
Yeah, we wanted to maximize. We had identified the three, really the 4 or 5 biggest attendance Sundays in the calendar, and of course one of those is Easter. And so my point was, what can we do to maximize on that day? And so we looked back at the last 3 years of Easter attendance to kind of see where things were at, and then just to forecast going forward what would happen. And so we felt like we would have a sizable crowd for the day. And so we made a decision back in February. We made a decision by the end of February to do 2 worship services. We normally have Bible study, small groups at 9:15, and then our worship on Sunday mornings is at 10:30. But for Easter Sunday, we wanted to maximize, and we wanted to make it as helpful as possible, particularly for families. And so we made the decision to do 2 services that morning with no small groups. And so we did an 8:30 worship, we did a 10:30 worship, and in between the 2, we offered a free breakfast. And so we had it catered by some folks in the church who do catering as a business and a lifestyle. And so they took care of fixing the breakfast, preparing it, serving it, and taking care of all of that. And so the idea was to create space to accommodate everybody, but also to create a flow so that when you're looking at parking spaces, when you're looking at the number of people walking up and down hallways. So the idea was an 8:30 service that went to about 9:45. The breakfast started serving at 9:30. So if you were coming to the second service, you came on, ate breakfast, moved out, came into the second service. If you came to the first service, you went to service and then slipped out and went to the breakfast. And we had our largest Easter attendance this year.
That I know everybody's been chomping the bit all the way up to now. Like, okay, what was the? Tell us what you have in worship on average, and then give us that big number.
We averaged 410 on Sunday mornings, and on Easter Sunday, between the 2 services, when you take the non-duplicated people out, so we had musicians and media team that were in both services. When you take those duplicated numbers out, we had 761. On Easter.
Wow. So how many would you say were first-time visitors?
And we also, if you want to talk about this later, that'll be fine. We registered or asked everyone to register on Easter Sunday. So in every seat we had put a guest or a registration card, and I asked everyone whether they were a member or not to register. And so when we pulled all of that out, we had approximately about 80 to 90 first-time guests, and that's families now. So I mean, it's 80 to 90 first-time families. So very likely we had close to a couple hundred people that were first-time guests on Easter Sunday.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Now let's be clear at this point. We don't attribute that just to having the web page up or breakfast. I mean, there's more. It was about promoting that in the community. So let's start now with one of the big pieces of that. We encouraged everyone to do every door direct mail, and there's a number of reasons for that. And if you go to our blog, evangelismga.com, and look, you can see all the information that Michael was able to see. But one of the reasons we encourage every door direct mail is, just to sum it up, you can hit every roof on a mail route for 17 cents a piece. Now you have to print, you have to design the postcard, and you can send a small one or you can send a massive one. But it's very cheap, and the reason it's so cheap is because you don't address the pieces; they don't need addresses. The post office doesn't have to sort any and name match and all that. It's just not part of that. It's just literally every door on a mail route is going to get a piece, so it reduces your cost. You were actually able to get it cheaper than that. Tell us about the process. Let's start with kind of how that process went for you, what your experience with it was.
Sure. Well, the first decision was, what are we going to do on Easter Sunday? How is Easter Sunday going to look? And then, of course, the next question in the room was, how do we tell everybody? How do we communicate this out? And, of course, we're in a more rural setting here in Rutledge. And so there are subdivisions, neighborhoods, but for the most part, people are living, house by house by house down roads and highways and that kind of thing. So it's not like you can just easily walk into a neighborhood, knock on the doors of 75 or 80 homes at a time and knock it out. And so we just, what can we do? And so we decided to do a mailer. Now, Scott, we use mailers throughout the year, so this was not the first time that we did this. Every time we have a major event, and we do about 6 major events throughout the course of the year. And so every one of those we do a mailer on. So that was not a new concept, but the sheer size, the volume of what we did was. Where we're located at, we're at where 4 counties come together here. And so when we think about our neighborhood or our community, when I was serving in Metro Atlanta, you talk about the church's community, you really thought about a 3 to 5 mile radius, and that was just because in the metro area, that's the kind of the way the towns and the cities and the neighborhoods are laid out. Here in a more rural setting, when we talk about our community, we think about a 15 to 20 minute drive, and so it really kind of circles out. So that moved us into not only our county, but it moved us then into 3 other counties. And we draw, normally on a regular Sunday, we're drawing people from those areas anyhow. So these were going to be neighbors. So we just started knocking it down, and we just figured out what the zip codes, the postal codes were all for that. Contacted the local post office to find out how many homes were in those postal zip codes. And so then we had a list, and we knew how many homes in each of those postal zip codes were going to be reached, and we knew how much it was going to cost us for each of those. So I think altogether we had 7 or 8 postal zip codes, and we knew how many homes were in each one and how much it was going to cost in each one.
Wow. And so here's where I was with you, and I was shocked actually when you told me the final number. My understanding was you had almost 10,000 roofs, 10,000 doors, and it cost you how much?
We actually hit a little over 10,400 homes, and it cost us a little over $800 to do all of that.
Wow, that is an amazing. I mean, to raise awareness that your church exists for that kind of money is just incredible, right?
Yeah, and that was actually, we found a couple of ways. We worked with the post offices, and of course by directly dropping off the ones to each post office that was for that specific postal code, it saved a little bit of money. They didn't charge us then for having to sort it from one mail spot in Madison to get it over to Social Circle or something. And so we wound up saving about $450. So it went from almost $1,300 down to a little over $800 to hit a little 10,417 homes, I believe it was.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing how many churches even have a postal worker in their church and they don't even know you can do that.
Right.
You know, I mean, This is not something that gets talked about a lot.
Well, it doesn't get talked about a lot, but the other thing I would say is all it cost us to figure out the cost and to negotiate. I say to negotiate, it really wasn't negotiation. We just asked what we could do, and then the post office said, look, we can do this, or you can save a little bit of money, you know, if you'll drop these off in their respective postal zip codes. It'll cost you a little less. All that took was a phone call. And so, you know, one of our administrative assistants, when she made the phone calls asking about the numbers, she also asked about the pricing and the cost. And so in a phone call, we found all of that out. So the decision lumped up in that in terms of the research to find out how many and how much probably cost about another 15, 20 minutes to make all those phone calls.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. And you're not unique. I know everyone's results would differ with Every Door Direct Mail. I got a phone call from another pastor, and we may interview him as well, but he had a little over 200 in Easter services last year, 2013, and this year they did the Every Door Direct Mail campaign. They printed it all in-house as well, got it out there, and they had over 400 in Easter worship, so they almost doubled from Every Door Direct Mail. So it was a very powerful strategy. Is there anything else you'd like to add about Every Door Direct Mail, or cautions or tips or comments before we move on to one final wrap-up concept I want to share?
I know that when we start looking at these things, cost tends to be a question that comes up on how much is this going to cost, and then how much value does it really have? And so I would say this. Here's where we came down. We're going to have this year, 2014, we had one shot at Easter. Easter Sunday was not going to come rolling back around until next year. And so what we wanted to do was to maximize, and I didn't want any regrets later to say, well, boy, I wish we had done this, or what would have happened. And Scott, we had people who, matter of fact, there's a couple with a 5-month-old son who came Easter Sunday. They have been back every Sunday since then. They live, it's probably a good 20-minute drive, maybe a 25-minute drive from where they're at. And as I've visited with them and talked with them, and then they're plugging more and more in now to a small group and connecting, I asked them, I said, look, how did you find out about Centennial? Because I saw where they live, and I knew how far out that was. And so they said, well, several years ago when we first moved in, we came to an event at Centennial, and we have visited some other churches, but Centennial is the only church that has continued to keep any type of contact with us.
Oh, wow.
Every time you do something, every time you do a major event or whatever, we get communication from you about that event. And this is what they said. The wife looked at me and she said, and when we got the Easter invite, we just knew that that was where we would be on Easter Sunday, because that church had continued to try to keep up with us. And so I just think that kind of value plays into it. We normally have 3 or 4 families that come through pastor guest reception on Sunday morning. You know, on average, we probably have 4 or 5 guests of families in the service. So to think about that on average, and then to wind up with 80 plus first-time guests and families on Easter Sunday, just the sheer volume, that's more than my people could have done if we had walked door to door in this more rural setting. If we had walked door to door for a month, I still don't think we could have done what we did in a week in terms of doing the mailing and that kind of thing. So I've always thought this, Scott, how can we do this well? And what would it take for us to go from doing something well to doing it with excellence?
Yes.
And usually the difference between doing it well and doing it with excellence is a small jump. It would require a little bit more effort, maybe a little bit more money, but the difference really pours out. So I would just say to pastors and to church leaders, decide what it is that you're really trying to do. And if you really want to try to reach people, then be willing to make that a priority and be willing to do whatever it takes. Here at Centennial, we like to say it this way: as long as it's not unbiblical, illegal, or immoral, we're going to give it a shot. And this time, the Lord honored and blessed, and we saw a significant increase and a significant follow-up. Just 2 weeks ago, was actually visiting in the home of another family that came on Easter Sunday. And it was once again the same thing. They had been to our church a few times before. They live about 5 miles down the road. They've got children. When they started a family, it kind of got busy, crazy, and this kind of thing. But they've got small children. They're thinking about church. They're thinking about that spiritual component of trying to raise children. And they got the mailer in the mail. And they decided to come on Easter Sunday, and now we've been able to get back into their homes. So whether it was 5 miles down the road or 25 minutes down the road, it really paid off for us.
Man, that's so good. I think the biggest thing that we take away from what you said is that promoting your church is an investment. It's not an expenditure. It really is, because if you maintain that visibility in the community, someone's going to join. Listen, if just one tithing family joined your church, or just even were saved and eventually tithe, you've more than covered your cost of getting that family through the door with getting that visibility through every door direct mail. $800, really? I mean, that's nothing for the return.
The other thing about it for us was we had this breakfast. We had this great idea that we were going to have more people than we could seat in one service. Mm-hmm. So we started saying, well, what we're going to do, we're going to have to pull chairs out of Sunday school rooms. Well, then that's going to disrupt the Bible study component on Sunday mornings. So then we said, well, that's when we decided to go to the 2 services. And our children's ministry director, she just spoke up. She said, why don't we do a breakfast in between? And so, of course, we decided to do that, and we did the best we could by asking people to kind of RSVP for the free meal so that we could plan adequately for it. But even then, we fed in the neighborhood of 400 people that morning, and we did that for $700 and some odd. Wow. So it was, it was all taken care of. But here was the thought: if we were going to go to that much effort, because with 2 services, then I needed two sets of greeters, 2 sets of ushers, 2 sets of parking folks. We then needed 2 sets or 2 times of nursery, preschool, and children's workers that morning. So it was going to require a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And so it was going to do that. I just felt like it was necessary that we put in everything that we possibly could to get as many people as possible. Plus, as pastor, I'm asking my church to support to buy into, to come alongside us in this process, and to embrace this idea of doing something bigger on these days. And so if I'm asking them to think big and go big, then I need to lead in that as well. And this really wasn't a think big, go big kind of deal. It was just being willing to do something that maybe we've not done before, or maybe something that we're hesitant about because we don't know how well it'll work. There's no way in the world that I can make that many phone calls and that many letters and that many whatever. And so I want FaceTime with our community. And when we did that on that Sunday morning, we had FaceTime. Me and all of our people at our church had tons of FaceTime with people in our community, be able to love on them, be able to help them to see that there's a great place, a great church of loving, wonderful people, and hopefully for them to walk away, first of all, having heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, hopefully having made a decision if they're not already a believer, but if nothing else, at least to have touched their heart, touched their life, and opened a door for further opportunity to minister to them going down the road.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want everybody to stay tuned to what we're doing at Evangelism Ministries of the GBC, because I'm going to be coming out soon with how you can actually get every door direct mail mailers on a regular basis for free. Michael's already pointed out to us, and thank you for doing that, Michael, about the importance of staying in front of people. What we call it top of mind positioning. That when they think, like, when you think shoe, you think Nike. When you think hamburger, you think Red Robin or whatever burger place is your favorite. This top of mind positioning. When we think soft drink, we think Coca-Cola. You get the idea. We want that when people think church, they think your church. And that's top of mind positioning, and every door direct mail is one of the ways to do that. And there are ways you can get that for free, and I'll talk about that in a future broadcast or a future podcast. That's why folks need to stay in touch with us at evangelismga.com. Follow what we have there on the blog with podcasting and blog posts, articles, and other resources that we make you aware of. As a wrap-up, I just want to mention that you took the link, and that can go on the postcard, that can go in the mail. People can see that on anything you print and go back to the website and see that video of you as a pastor offering them that invitation to come on Easter. But you also leveraged one of the greatest free forms of advertising that we have as churches, and that's social media. Could you just give us a brief snapshot of what you did with social media and what you encouraged the people to do with that?
Sure. Social media is what you make out of it. And so we took the link for the page where we had created with the video and all the information, and then we really just followed the layout, the outline of what you had put in the article. And in the bulletin for a couple of Sundays, we gave 3 samples of little blurbs that they could use, on their Twitter account, Facebook, or they could distribute, to their friends through email. And so then through our church media, through our church's Twitter account, through the church's Facebook page, we would tweet out or post out about the Easter using the logo and put that link there. And then we were asking people to not only tweet it themselves, but to retweet, to copy and paste, to share those Facebook pages, to like them, to share those Facebook posts. And so the idea there was that we have so many friends and followers ourselves via Twitter and Facebook, and those are just the 2 primary ones that we've chosen to use, just to kind of stay simple. But then to think about how many more followers and how many more friends are on the pages and in the accounts of our church members. And the people really bought into it, really got excited. We made certain that the picture, the logo for Easter that we were using all our stuff, we made certain that was available to our church members as well, so that they could insert that into their own email invites. We had a couple of folks that did that. They used a free service of their own where they sent out postcard invites through their email lists, and they used the link that we had provided, and they used the logo, the Easter logo that we had created and provided. And so that was just a way to try to tie it all back, keep it all streamlined together, and tie everybody back to that one source. Maybe 20 to 30 minutes wrapped up in the creation of all of that media, and then you just turn around and start pouring that out, and week after week, day after day, those posts and invites were getting out there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. One of the key points to take away from this is that our people will mobilize if we give them the right tools. And so you're basically just giving them the tools and a little bit of how to. Don't expect them to create a lot of times the opportunities. Help them to leverage the opportunities you create as they get mobilized to just simply use and implement what you've created, and to do it in a way that you've already instructed them very clearly. We want you to post this, do this, share this, email this, and they'll take action on that if the instructions are simple and clear, and if the tools are easy to use, which these are.
And we found our people got excited. They bought into it. They got excited about it. We actually have people, Scott, that created a Twitter account who had never been on Twitter before, but they saw what we were doing, and we use social media pretty regularly. I mean, we really just implemented that as a part of our communication, marketing. I know that may be a bad word, or maybe some people aren't comfortable with that, but it's for you. So you can call it whatever you want to. Media, outreach. You name it. It's all the same effort. And so we started using social media just as like a natural part of everything that we do. And so we had church members that started creating, Twitter accounts because they knew that stuff was going on there and they wanted to be a part of it. And so it generated a lot of excitement, and we gained some traction just in the fellowship and the life of the church, just because people got excited that we were doing something.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Well, that's leadership. So great job on that. Well, listen, you've been great, Michael. I want to thank you for your time and for sharing with everybody your experience with this. A great case study. And I hope people understand that Every Door Direct Mail is something that can be used not just for Easter, but really for any kind of event through the year, or any kind of just community awareness, just making people know, helping people know that you're there and that you're active and what you're all about. So hopefully that'll be the biggest takeaway from this interview. Michael, thanks for your time. God bless you and your leadership and your church. Thanks for all that Centennial's doing. I know you're one of the top baptizing churches in Georgia again and again every year. We want to thank you for being a gospel-driven church. And I know you're new to the ministry, but God bless you as you continue to grow.
Hey, Scott, thank you, man. We appreciate you and everything that the Evangelism Department is doing there to help us mobilize and be Great Commission focused. It's
our pleasure, and we look forward to seeing everyone again online somewhere. We're constantly cranking out content. Got a lot of great stuff going right now. God bless everybody. Thanks for watching.